Thank you for coming by. This is an American project. Please be sure to like and subscribe. We appreciate it. Let's get started. South Carolina Senator Tim Scott, appointed by Nikki Haley, threw his weight behind President Trump ahead of the state's Republican presidential primary. Senator Tim Scott, a one-time rival to former President Donald Trump, enthusiastically endorsed him at an event in Concord, New Hampshire on January 19th. Mr. Scott ran as a Republican on the ballot and met early requirements to participate in debates, but he dropped out of the race in November. During an appearance in Concord, Mr. Trump introduced Mr. Scott, who came to the stage with high energy. "We need a president who will unite our country. We need Donald Trump. We need a president who will protect your Social Security and your mama's Social Security," Mr. Scott said. Mr. Scott led the crowd to chant Donald Trump each time after he expressed what he believes the country needs. "We need a president today who will stop the crime and recklessness in the streets," he continued. "We need a president who will restore law and order. We need," the crowd shouts, "Donald Trump." The list went on, calling for a president who would lower taxes and one whom our adversaries would fear and our allies would respect. "We need a president who doesn't see black or white," he said, "but one who sees America as one family." Mr. Scott then officially and enthusiastically said the words that had been rumored all day. "And that's why I came to the very warm state of New Hampshire to endorse the next president of the United States, President Donald Trump." President Trump said the Republican Party now needs to unify and stop wasting millions of dollars attacking him. The gathered crowd included supporters and some who were simply curious to hear President Trump speak. The Reverend Joel Tinney, a major pro-Trump evangelist in Iowa, said he drove 18 hours after the caucus to campaign for Trump in New Hampshire. He told the Epoch Times that President Trump was the best to hold that office in his lifetime, and he was pleased that he received the endorsement of two Christian men, Mr. Scott and Dr. Ben Carson. He said President Trump advanced the pro-life movement. He was the only president to ever speak at a pro-life event, the March for Life, which is the biggest pro-life event in the nation, Mr. Tinney said, adding that President Trump's actions while in office saved millions of babies' lives. Former New Hampshire State Rep. Max Abramson, a Republican, is not sold on President Trump. He had intended to get behind Mr. Scott before he dropped out. Mr. Abramson told the Epoch Times that he put his intentions behind Vivek Ramaswamy, who dropped out the night of the Iowa caucus. "I'm still looking at it, like Governor Ron DeSantis," Mr. Abramson said. "I know he's having some events here in New Hampshire. If DeSantis focuses on the fiscally conservative states, he probably has a chance to keep going. Mr. DeSantis is less about social issues and more about getting the government off your back," he added. The news will likely be a blow to the candidacy of former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley. Ms. Haley, also the former U.S. ambassador to the UN, was reportedly seeking an endorsement from Mr. Scott. Ms. Haley, when she was governor of the Palmetto State, appointed Mr. Scott to his seat in the Senate in 2013 to fill a vacancy. Mr. Scott replaced former South Carolina Senator Jim DeMint. A representative of the Haley campaign shared an X post where Ms. Haley replied to the report. "Interesting that Trump's lining up with all the Washington insiders when he claimed he wanted to drain the swamp. Mr. Scott once ran alongside Ms. Haley as a candidate for the 2024 Republican Party's presidential nomination. Mr. Scott withdrew from the race in November 2023. Ms. Haley is one of the two major candidates left in the race against President Trump. She and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis both finished well behind the 45th president at the Republican Party of Iowa's caucus on January 15th. According to the Republican Party of Iowa's official results, President Trump won 51% of the vote. Mr. DeSantis placed second with 21.2%, and Ms. Haley with 19.1% placed third. Ms. Haley is currently in New Hampshire, where she is campaigning with Governor Chris Sununu, a Republican. On January 15th in West Des Moines, Iowa, she declared the GOP's primary contest was now a two-person race between herself and President Trump. According to the latest major poll out on New Hampshire, published by the Boston Globe and conducted by Suffolk University, President Trump holds a commanding lead over Ms. Haley. Of the 500 likely voters contacted between January 17th and January 18th by Suffolk University's pollsters, 51.8% said they would be voting for President Trump. Following 35.4% said they prefer Ms. Haley. Another 6.4% said they would support DeSantis. The smallest percentage, 4.2%, remains undecided. In another poll, which compared the preferences of 1,299 New Hampshireites between January 15th and January 17th, respondents preferred Ms. Haley over President Joe Biden in a direct matchup. In a hypothetical contest, the respondents to the poll backed President Biden over President Trump by a margin of 52% to 45% in a rematch of the 2020 election. The same experiment was conducted with Ms. Haley, who won 47% to 44%, and with Mr. DeSantis, who lost 51% to 42%. Since her speech in Iowa, Ms. Haley is stepping up attacks on both President Trump and President Biden. She calls him too old and says President Trump tells too many lies. New Hampshire will hold its presidential primary on January 23rd. The GOP's South Carolina primary is set for February 24th. Speaking of lying, Nikki Haley is accused of cheating on her husband before becoming governor of South Carolina, report says. Nikki Haley was accused of cheating on her husband with 2 different men before she was elected governor of South Carolina in 2010. RadarOnline.com has learned. In a shocking development to come, as Haley, 51, continues her campaign for the 2024 Republican primaries, several sources have stepped forward to accuse the GOP politician of having 2 affairs more than 15 years ago. According to the Daily Mail, sources claimed Haley allegedly had 2 different affairs with Will Folks, now 49, and Larry Merchant, now 61, in 2007 and 2008, respectively. Folks served as Haley's communications consultant at the time of the alleged affair, while Merchant worked as a South Carolina lobbyist. Even more shocking was Daily Mail's claim that both Folks and Merchant signed sworn affidavits alleging that they shared sexual relationships with the South Carolina politician in 2007 and 2008. Representative Haley and I shared our first kiss while sitting in her parked car outside of McDougal's restaurant and bar in downtown Columbia, South Carolina. Folks reportedly wrote in his affidavit in October 2010. This kiss took place in early 2007 following an evening with friends at the nearby Liberty Tap Room. He continued, after this kiss, Rep. Haley drove us to the parking lot behind a neighborhood center at Emily Douglas Park, where we parked for approximately 45 minutes. Merchant alleged in his affidavit that he and Haley shared dinner, drinks, and intimacy during a Salt Lake City conference in June 2008, according to the Daily Mail. Rep. Nick Haley and I were in Salt Lake City attending a conference together on June 14th and 15th in 2008, Merchant wrote in 2010. We were both staying at the Salt Lake Marriott downtown. After a night together of dinner and drinks with other participants of the conference, Rep. Haley and I returned to the hotel together. Merchant alleged further. We went back to her room where we were intimate again, and I spent the remainder of the evening. I came forward publicly on this matter only after being contacted by the press and after hearing Rep. Haley claim that she had been 100% faithful to her husband in response to the Folks' allegations when I knew her statement was absolutely false, he concluded. Merchant's wife later cited her husband and Haley's alleged affair in court documents connected to the pair's divorce in 2013. Meanwhile, Daily Mail claimed other GOP insiders have since come forward to corroborate Folks and Merchant's affair allegations against Haley. When she was having the affair, she and her husband were having a lot of problems and were on the verge of divorce, one of Haley's ex-staffers told the Daily Mail. There's no question she and Will were having an affair, the staffer added. A lot of people saw her sitting on laps wrapped arm in arm, and other sources alleged. I saw her myself when she was sitting on Larry's lap. Haley has denied the affair allegations against her and insisted that she has been 100% faithful, unquote, to her husband, Michael Haley, since their marriage in '96. I have been 100% faithful to my husband throughout our 13 years of marriage. Haley said when folks first exposed their alleged affair in 2010. This claim against me is categorically and totally false. And there you have it. Thanks for coming by. This is American Project. Please be sure to like and subscribe. We appreciate it. Have a great day. God bless.